people, I've busted vendors before that are selling bootleg merchandise, and they always tell me that they didn't know the difference. And Valerie's laughing. If it is your business to sell things, that is your business. You've decided to look at. She's already smiling and shaking her head.
My father and mother were vendors years ago.
Yeah.
So they knew
Yeah. If it's your business to sell things, it would also be your business to know everything about what you're selling and know the legality involved and what comes with that. Ignorance is the law. Ignorance of the law has never been an excuse to begin with. And many cases I met people that were sword vendors that had bought anime replicas from somebody else. And you can tell when someone is without knowledge of the law because they are truly remorseful when they find out. And there's no hiding what that looks like. Most vendors, though, that sell bootleg merchandise not only have sold bootleg merchandise forever, some of them have been caught at great public knowledge. There's a vendor that goes to every anime convention around, and that vendor is not even allowed to use the name of his original business. And they served papers on this vendor at AX. It made headlines. It was all over Anime News Network, and it was a big deal. Bandai went after him. Yeah. And that person changed the name of their company, very similar, and still continue to sell bootleg merchandise at every convention they go to. And see, I can say that because I didn't say their name. But, strangely, that I will segue into J-Rock and posters, and you can take that to mean what you will. I get asked about posters a lot because posters are one of the hardest things to spot. How many of you are, just out of curiosity, how many of you are collectors of video game paraphernalia? Yay! No, I'm not the only one.
I'm a square-enix person, actually. After you mentioned the wall scroll thing, I just realized that I have a Final Fantasy VII Before Crisis wall scroll, and I bought it in Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
My sister came home, and she's a graphic design major from Casanova College in New York, and she sat there and she goes, "It's orange here, not blue like the rest. She was shifted up, and there's the evidence right there in the back."
Yeah.
And she's pointing out all the turrets and goes, "Sephiroth, sword is wrong." She's got the original picture that she goes, "It's too short." And
that's awesome.
She's going on through, she's picking the whole picture, and I'm like, now I feel bad I spent $15 buying that wall scroll in Montreal.
Yeah. Well, and especially, I almost, this sounds horrible, but I almost never, when I'm out of the country, I almost never buy anything. Because I'm not familiar with the laws in other states, and I don't know what copyright enforcement is like. And here's a really sad story, and I will not name the convention, but there's a convention that I've been to several times in Canada, and they are a wonderful convention. The people that run it are excellent. They remind me, I mean, they're my age. They're all anime fans, and they just love doing this. It's in a smaller city, so it's not ridiculously huge, and it's just a really great show. And the first year I was there, and, you know, they knew they were having Mr. Bootleg, and they were like, "Oh, come look at our dealer's room, you know, we're very excited about this." And it was it was about like 25 to 40% bootleg. And I was like, oh my God, you can't let these people sell this. And they've never even been faced with that before. They've never had somebody that could just, "Oh, no, that. And the vendors hate me. I'm sure you can imagine that. Or I should say some vendors hate me because I know the vendors that sell legitimate stuff love me. But, you know, I've been in a dealer's room if there are tarps over the tables. Because the bootleg vendors always have tarps and they'll throw them over the table. If they see any chance that there's somebody inspecting their tables, boom, over the table. These magical black tarps appear. Well, the sad thing is, I went back to this convention a few years later, and they were super excited because I had said, well, look, you know, at the convention that I work for, we have it written into our contract, our dealer's room contract, that if you're caught selling bootleg, we get to keep your money and you got to go. And we have a one warning rule, and after one warning, you're gone. And so they were all excited. They had adjusted their dealer's room contract, and they were, yeah, we've got a bootleg-free dealer's room. And when we went this year, it was 90% bootleg. So we're actually working with them and with a local vendor to try to make people in that area aware of it. And that's why I'm really careful when I go to another country buying anything, because I never know what I'm getting, and I never know the vendors involved. Like in the States, I pretty much know. I know, like, hey, Rosemary, hey, Steve Lynn, hey, Levin, how, you know, like, I know pretty much who's around and who sells good stuff and who doesn't. The reason I brought up video game merchandise, specifically Sega fans, like Sonic fans. Sonic fans are huge fans of Sonic. Specifically posters. You'll recognize that video game posters are almost never the same size. It makes framing them almost impossible. Any J-Rock fans at all? Any J-Pop fans? Any Ayumi Hamasaki fans? That gets the boys' hands in the air. There is a very specific Hamasaki poster that I always point out when I talk about bootleg posters. It's the Catgirl poster. And anybody that's a Hamasaki fan knows the poster I'm talking about. She is in a skin-tight Catgirl outfit with cat ears and a tail, and she's sitting in a very, like, pin-up girl pose. But the poster is about this tall by about this wide. Why would someone do that? Just out of curiosity. Why would you make a poster such a weird size?
Door poster.
A door poster, but this is even thinner than a door. I mean, it's really, really, maybe like at a tall, thin person's house door. This is a tiny, weird size poster.
Did they cut something out?
It makes it almost impossible to bootleg. Custom sizing, does anybody work with printing or do stuff with printing? Custom sizes, especially full bleed custom designs, are expensive. When the ink, and I'm using a technical term, full bleed refers to the ink going all the way to the edges of the paper, which every single poster you see is a full bleed poster. To do a full bleed poster of a non-standard design is expensive. He's like smiling and shaking his head. It's expensive. And by doing it an odd size, most of the bootleg poster salespeople will go and buy a collector's poster that's like worth $85 or $95. They'll take it to an disreputable printer, because printers also know a lot of times whether they're doing things above or under the table. Take it to a disreputable printer and say, hey, I need as good a clean copy of this as possible, and I need 4,000 copies. You can't do that very well with a poster that's a non-standard size, because to get it a standard size, what do you have to do to the picture? Photoshop fans? Transform the picture. And suddenly the very sleek, thin, sexy Ayumi Hamasaki turns into hamster-sized Hamasaki. Like, it's not the same cat at all. And you will see that with a lot of video games. And Japanese posters in general, you will not see a standard size. The only standard size posters that you will see are movie-style posters, like showbill-style posters. And you usually only find those for, like, feature release, like Miyazaki films and things like that. There's some Ranma posters that are that size. So here's what I will tell you. If you approach a booth, and this is as legal as I can say this, and every single poster you see presented for you are the exact same size, and they are both Japanese rock and anime and video game, chances are you're not looking at a legitimate poster. Chances are you're looking at a really bad knockoff. And I know vendors that have had this happen to them. They've, one of the vendors that I know specifically makes 2 trips to Japan every year, and they bring back posters. And there is a very specific Chrono Crusade poster that if I ever find it, I will pay as much as $150 for it. But it's a 2-sided poster. And that's the thing that makes it so cool all by itself. It's a 2-sided poster. Both sides beautiful, both sides worthy of framing. There's now a 1-sided version that keeps popping up in America. A 1-sided version of a 2-sided poster. In fact, there are 2 very well-known collectors 2-sided posters. I have the Dean Angel one. I finally got my hands on the one for Dean Angel. But and by sheer fact that I'm like, I finally got my hands on it, you can imagine they weren't $20. Very expensive posters. I think the Chrono Crusade one, when I saw it the very first time, and I let my friend buy it because she's a huge fan of the show and of his work in general. It was $50, and that was 2005. So that you can imagine how much it's worth now.